Hello, everybody. Welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, please let me know how the audio quality is. YouTube live chat. I see we already have some discussions going on over there. And if you want to help us get to our goal of 1,000 likes, please hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube through the link at the top of your screens. Let's see if we can get to our goal today. And one note for those who watch the recording on YouTube. I see that most of the likes come from those who are watching live and listening live, but majority of the views are coming from people watching the recording. It really matters. Even if you're watching the recording, please hit that like button to help us get to our goal of 1,000 likes per episode. It's very important to get there to make this sustainable. Alexander, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good too. Dallas, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Hustle Town, H Town, how are you?
Doing great. Audio on YouTube is also good. I really got to stress this, ladies and gentlemen. There's too many people I run into that aren't aware of Tesla, and even Tesla owners that aren't aware of the magic of FSD and things that liking and subscribing on this channel will reach so many people. We got to do it. We got to let everybody on the planet know what this company is doing.
Thank you very much, H Town. I love that. I love it when our speakers contribute to these call to actions because they get it. They get how important this is. All right. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about Uber versus Tesla. We're going to talk about wireless charging, FSD 13, and Elon's campaigning in Pennsylvania, some macro news. If we get to it, we're going to talk about Amazon's investment in nuclear power plants and a bunch of other topics as well. So welcome to episode 203. Alexander, would you like to give us a kind of overview of the wireless charging efforts that are going on, technology improvements?
Wireless charging. The only thing I know about this is a video I saw 2 years ago that it's actually because the notion was that wireless charging was inefficient, but this video actually showed that it can actually be better than cable. So yeah, that's all I know about that.
Okay, I noted that you sent a video to the DM group about the efficiency test. Do you have any kind of key takeaways from that? What was the highest efficiency they noted?
I think it was about like 89-90%, and the cable when they tried it was actually like 85%, I think.
Okay, so what's reducing the efficiency of the cable?
Well, they didn't realize why. They just noted that it wasn't as efficient. It can be many reasons, I guess.
And was the cable charging they were using a supercharger, a destination charger, or a third-party charger?
It was a third-party charger in Norway.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would be surprised if Tesla's cable charging was less than 90% efficient. And I suspect it's higher. And curious to see, we can maybe talk about this some more later on. Does anybody else on the board have views on wireless charging? Dallas, anything on your front?
No, just hoping for a retrofit that'll likely never happen.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about later on is I wonder with which Tesla first Tesla will introduce, which model Tesla will introduce wireless charging. Is it going to be Cybercab or maybe the new Model Y? Who knows? Ellie?
Yeah, thanks. Let me know if you don't hear me very good because I'm driving. But
We can't hear you.
I saw the video that Omar posted like a few hours ago. And the key takeaway was that basically you can retrofit this device to any car, and they have Model 3. I forgot the name of the company, but they have 2 Mach-E and 1 Model 3. Now, the best thing about it is that basically it could charge up to the same speed as home charge, so basically up to 11 kilowatt for Teslas. But you can retrofit the device to the capability where it can actually charge fleets like buses, minibus, and it can go up to 50, 60, and 70 kilowatt. Now, the big difference between what I saw on the video regarding what Alexander was talking about, the video from 2 years ago, that they talking about a new kind of induction that doesn't basically require the coils, but it works with magnetic, and he was talking about same frequency. I don't know what it means, but according to what he says, you don't have to align perfectly the device below the car. You can basically swing it, wing it, and it will charge. That's what I got, and I can deliver more if you want.
That's great summary, Ellie, of the video that we shared in the DM group. Thank you very much for sharing all those details. And I always welcome deeper dives into these things. So we're going to dig deeper into topics going forward. So thank you, Ellie. I really appreciate when speakers bring in detailed information, detailed new material information. Let's understand where the latest of this technology stands. Alexander?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. We are not talking about the same video. I'm talking about the video I shared, but it was also from 2 years ago.
Yeah. Ellie, I watched the video that you mentioned right before I hopped on here. And if there's anybody else in the audience who would like to talk about it, please request to speak. We're trying to learn where the state of the wireless charging stands today. Samir, go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks, Yaman, for hosting this again on a daily basis. I kind of, it's not really a question, but just a comment that I kind of really doubt that the wireless charging will be more efficient than cable charging, simply because it comes down to first principles. The efficiency is pretty much how efficiently the electrons are transferred from one position to the other, and copper is the best conductor out there. So if it's wireless charging, it somehow is going through air, and air is less. It has higher resistance than copper. So to me, it's just very surprising that wireless charging is more efficient than wired.
Okay. I mean, that was kind of my understanding too, although the figures that were thrown out just a second ago, I think a little too low. I think both of them are now above 90% efficient. And Miss Libby in the reply says, I read that induction charging is now up to 90% efficient, while wired is up to 95%. Ellie?
According to the guy in the video, he was talking about 92% for both home charging and the wireless. So basically 92 for both of them.
Thank you, Ellie. And this is the video that Omar shared that we're talking about. So Omar's here too. But before we go to Omar, Alejandro, go ahead.
No, I was actually surprised about that 92%. Both of them, I was under the impression that wireless was less efficient, but yeah, I was not raising yet my hand.
Yeah. So the point about wireless charging is that it enables a couple of use cases that are just not available really with a wired charging. So rather than obsessing about 1-2% efficiency loss, if it enables autonomy rather than having to have a Optimus standing at a charging station or having to ask somebody nearby to plug it in, then obviously that's a huge plus, and it could be worth 1% or 2% lower efficiency. And then later in that video, the person was talking about how it also benefits the vehicle to grid applications as well. And maybe Ellie can give us a couple of sentences on that. Ellie, would you like to elaborate some more on it?
Yeah, please. Thank you. So basically, if you have a fully charged vehicle and it sits just outside your house, and let's say something happened, you have a blackout or something, then you need to get out of the house and plug it in. And that's what he explained in the video. So basically, if the car is just sitting above the wireless device already, you can just plug it in. Basically, you can go vehicle to grid just like that by the flip of the button instead of just going out.
Yes, exactly. Great point, Ellie. And one more thing that the person mentioned was people don't plug their vehicles in at home if it's close to fully charged. And that's when you really need your vehicle charged for vehicle to grid applications. But if it's wireless and it's just parked over the charger, then you don't have to do anything extra, just like Ellie mentioned. Thank you, Ellie. Let's go to Dallas and then Alejandro.
Yeah, before we move on from this wireless charging topic, I just wanted to touch on the importance of it for the home application. I know that they really mostly talk about the robotaxi fleet benefits, but being able to pull into your driveway and their integration with MyQLink, I mean, that's what's really going to change the game for the home, or the residential owner of a Tesla. It's going to get out of your car in the driveway and it's going to open your gate, open your garage, and park itself and go charge.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dallas. Let's go to Alejandro.
Yes, I have worked in some wireless charging applications, and one of the items that has always been like Achilles heel has been like, how close, how is the orientation between the charger and the receiver. So I wonder, I haven't seen the video that you guys are referring to, but I wonder if that was covered, like how
It
close
was
or how
covered.
sensitive.
No, let's go to Ellie, who has his hands up, who obviously watched the video beginning to end, and who's brought all the facts with him today. Ellie, why don't you answer Alejandro's question? How close, how much aligned do these the charger and the vehicle have to be to achieve these 90% plus efficiencies we're talking about?
So according to the guy, you don't have to align perfectly the car above the device. The UI that they displayed in the video wasn't perfect because it's still in the engineering stage. So the UI is not perfect, but it can show you that once you approach the device, there's like a square that shows basically whatever you need to do. You need to move forward, you need to move to the right, to the left, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, that's regarding your question, Alejandro. And I wanted to ask Omar, if it's okay.
Hold on one second. Hold on
Yeah.
1 second. So can you dig a little deeper? Why doesn't have to be? There's a specific call out in that video why it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned. What allows that?
Well, to be honest, I understood the concept, but I don't think I have the words in English. I will try to explain.
So basically, both the charger and the receiver in the vehicle is tuned for a specific frequency. And because of that, is my understanding that the vehicles don't have to be perfectly aligned, as was the case in previous technologies with wireless charging. So that the founder of this company we're talking about calls out as the key innovation. Ellie and then Omar.
Yeah, he basically gave the example of swing, that just a small push, just a little push of the swing can give you the same basically height when you swing your child on a swing. That's about it. Tell me please when I can ask Omar a question. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So Omar, my biggest concern, and I'm sure you saw the video because you posted it. They told us basically that any cat, any opening of a door, any interference of the something scrolling below the car will stop the charging. So is this a concern? Is this something you can see that we basically maybe can overcome in the future?
Yeah, so there's a lot of misconceptions about wireless EV charging. People think about their phone charger and they think, oh, this is how we're going to charge an EV. Not at all, right? Induction charging that charges your toothbrush, that charges your phone. This is not that. This is a new technology we've never seen before. It's been around for many years, but they're now just starting to standardize it. It's become an SAE standard, and they're going to start building it into EVs. This is called magnetic resonance charging. Okay. So it's a much better technology. They who are doing the technology claim that it's got the same efficiency as plugging in, right? Because the onboard charger on your vehicle is not perfectly efficient either. It's getting about 92, 93% for most EVs. And they've created a wireless charger that can do the same thing. So they've tuned these coils to a certain frequency where they can kind of put a little bit of energy in and there's resonance. They kind of made an analogy of like pushing a kid on a swing. You push them a lot and there's a lot of motion. So this can support high charging speeds it can support efficiency that's just as good as plugging in, according to their marketing claims. Maybe not in all conditions, maybe in ideal conditions. We'd have to see rain, snow, how does it affect it. But because it's magnetic resonance, you can even pass your hand under it or pass something under it temporarily, and it won't even matter that much. It may hurt the efficiency a little bit. They may stop it just for safety reasons, but you don't have to have the car directly touching the pad because it's magnets. It can just charge the car even with the gap, even if it's not perfectly aligned.
Yeah,
And of course, with autonomy, they can make sure that the car aligns itself perfectly automatically.
very good. That's a great summary of the video. That was a very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much. We had about 5, 6 speakers contributing to that discussion, and I learned a lot. So now let's bring down the quality of the discussion by going to machine. Machine is on the board. Everybody, please be prepared for profanities and weird jokes. Machine, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that when Tesla unveils their wireless charging, oh my,
Can you guys hear him?
No.
Yeah. See, I mean, the AI is really good. XAI is really good.
and see
When
what happens.
the quality of the discussion is about to drop, XAI knows, can predict. These LLMs are getting really good and just mute the person automatically. Amazing. Machine, welcome. Oh no, he dropped. Never mind. Wow, AI is taken to the next level. Oh, there he is. Dude, what the hell is going on?
I'm on my laptop, and I don't know. I couldn't hear you, which probably would be for the better, but then I wouldn't be able to respond. So I dropped out for a second.
All right. Would you like to make a relevant point so that ChatGPT scores a little higher today?
Do you have a question?
The question is, what do you think about these wireless chargers? Do you think Tesla will introduce wireless charging with the Cybercab first in a few years, or do you think maybe the new Model Y might get it?
I would guess Cybercab. I honestly haven't thought about it before. So I don't really have a good reasoning. I guess it could be ready for Model Y. The question is, how useful is this for people at home? I think it's a nice to have for sure. If it's something that they plan on selling to consumers and it's a high margin product, then I could see them using it on Model Y, Model 3, and all vehicles if it's ready. So, the more I think about it, just talking, I think it could be unveiled with the Model Y first. If they can make money off of it, then why not?
Okay. Alejandro?
I wouldn't be thinking that it would be on the new Model Y because there is no infrastructure for it at the moment, and I wonder if they ever be even thinking about putting both systems on a new car. I could understand having only wireless or only wall, but both of them doesn't seem to make economical sense. What do you think?
Okay, Alexander?
I wouldn't buy an electric car because there's no infrastructure to charge them.
I think that was a joke.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
All right. Okay, that was in between. I wasn't sure. We have some great comments in YouTube live chat. YouTube's live chat is really live today, alive. And we went up to about a few dozen likes even before the episode started, which I think, it really, really makes me happy because people are really excited about Tesla Live starting at 1 p.m. And Brian Sullivan says in YouTube live chat, magnetic resonant charging. This is new to me, and I'm an industrial electrician with some experience in inductive power systems. I have some reading to do. And thanks, Omar. And then people are letting me know what number of likes they are. True to a T is now 89. We're about to get to 100. Thank you very much, everybody. Steve says in YouTube live chat, charge handle overheating can reduce charging speed. You might remember people were putting wet clothes on charging cable handles. Tesla did tell people to stop doing that, though. Yep, I remember that. Brandon says silver is the best conductor, by the way, but it tarnishes. Okay, let's see what other comments they got over here. There's some more, and you can head over to YouTube live chat through the link at the top of your screen if you want to participate. Let's hear from Omar. Omar, go ahead.
Yeah, I really think that wireless charging represents a big step forward in usability and EV infrastructure. Although there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg problem right now, it doesn't make sense to add the wireless charging hardware to an EV because there's no chargers. It doesn't make sense to build a wireless charger because there's no EVs. Tesla getting into it is going to crack that chicken and the egg problem. And when you look at EV charger infrastructure today, I mean, how many times have you seen a broken plug, a broken cable? Someone even cut the cable. A lot of, with chargers, you got to go and you got to plug in. Sometimes you don't park close enough, and then you got to get the cable, and there's a lot of hassle associated with it. You got to make sure to plug and unplug. You got to pay. I think this really could bring up the EV charging experience where your car can just go drive itself to a charger, park over the pad, charge, and come back to you. So we have seen in the Cybertruck when Monroe tore it down, he said there's a little slot here to add a wireless charging pad to the Cybertruck. So I could see that being available as a retrofit for the Cybertruck in the future, and for them to eventually, I think, make it standard across their lineup. Cybercab being wireless charging only is interesting because I think it'll help kickstart the build out of wireless chargers if there are EVs that don't even have a plug.
Thank you, Omar. Omar, can you repeat what you said about the potential retrofit for Cybertruck, and also what would that involve?
Yeah, Sandy Monroe mentioned when he tore down the Cybertruck that there seems to be a little connector at the bottom of the Cybertruck for a wireless charging pad to be added. A wireless charging pad could then charge the battery of the Cybertruck with a wireless charger. So I imagine, this might be something they make available in the Tesla shop. You could buy it, take it to the service center, and they'd go ahead and install that charging pad on your truck. It would then be able to charge at any superchargers that had the new wireless charging or home charger, whatever wireless chargers they have.
Great. Thank you very much for the information. And before I go to Ellie, do you think Tesla may start wireless charging with the new Model Y that's going to come out sometime next year?
I wouldn't expect it. I suppose it's possible, but Tesla's very much like, let's cut out every part we don't need. So unless they can do it very cost efficiently, I don't see it becoming standard equipment just yet. But over the next 2 years, I could definitely see it becoming standard equipment.
Thank you very much. If you're finding this discussion helpful, it'd be awesome if a few of you could go over to YouTube and hit that like button. We're working hard to reach 1,000 likes per episode, which would make these spaces sustainable longer term. Every like really matters, makes a big difference. Thank you. Ellie, go ahead.
Thank you. Just before I say whatever I wanted to say, guys, you don't know how much time Yaman spent before every space. He's putting a lot of effort, a lot of work before every space. I know it. Alexander knows it. Everybody here on the speaker board knows it. Please, it's just something small that you can do. It takes a few seconds. And if I can do it under missiles and attack from other countries, you guys can do it peacefully. Anyway, I wanted to just say my biggest takeaway is that if you can retrofit any car, basically, I don't see why Tesla cannot, come up with some technology that they can retrofit every car. So I don't see why they need to bring it to Cybercab in advance, like just for Cybercab and even for Cybertruck. I saw the model video that Omar mentioned. I just think that they can come up with technology that you can retrofit Model 3, Model Y, easy peasy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that video talked about a potential retrofit as well. It looked, Ellie, however, in that video that it's very labor intensive to retrofit cars who may not be designed with that in mind. It could cost a few $1,000s. So I don't know if previous Teslas will have a retrofit, or maybe there will be third-party solutions for it if you want to pay a few $1,000s and maybe participate into the vehicle grid systems with your existing car. Ellie and then Alexander.
That's true, but that was the guy from, anonymous company that's still raising money and developing the product. With Tesla, with the money Tesla has and the technology and the power to build this like as many as they can probably drop the price. But it will be interesting to see.
Great, Alexander.
Yeah, I think the market for retrofitting is pretty slim, to be honest.
All right, thank you, Alexander. Any other questions, comments on this very topic, wireless charging? This is the time. We're going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, and then we're going to move on to FSD 13. So final comments, Omar?
Yeah, I think they'll probably start adding support in new cars. In terms of retrofits, there'll probably be third-party solutions available because it's an SAE standard, but it's probably not something Tesla's going to do themselves. And I feel like if you already have a Model 3 or Model Y, you probably have a corded charger. It's already set up. You probably don't care that much about setting up wireless. Next time you get a new car, it'll probably be ready for it.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. That was a really insightful discussion, guys. Thank you to the speakers who participated in the discussion. And thank you to those of you who requested to speak. And hit that like button on the YouTube channel to support our growth. Just in summary, wireless charging is an important technology for the future of Tesla. It has applications around autonomy and vehicle to grid. And efficiency of the technology appears to have increased in the recent years. So I look forward to hearing more about it for future discussions on the technology. Maybe we can explore some patents, look into some companies, and talk about this some more in future episodes. Thank you very much. All right, let's now turn our attention to FSD 13 release. Ashok had some comments on X on FSD 13. He had a thread on it. Omar, what are your thoughts on Ashok's thread?
Well, Ashok has now been promoted, or Ashok, hopefully I'm saying that right, has now been promoted.
He needs to come here and tell us how it's supposed to be pronounced. Like we have like now 5 different versions of the guy's first name. Anyway, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, Ashok got promoted from director of autopilot software to VP of AI software. So congratulations to him on the promotion. He did have an interesting post last night, and I think probably the most amazing thing out of the post is that he said, these demos, we gave over 2,000 people driverless rides safely. And this was just using regular old FSD. It wasn't some special version of the software. It didn't have any additional pre-mapping. It was just the same FSD that they shipped to customers. Now, granted, he said it's actually running FSD 13, not FSD 12 that we're running today, but they do plan to ship FSD 13 to their customers. So pretty amazing that they were able to do this with the regular FSD 13, and they didn't have one intervention despite, people walking around the cars, a pretty busy event. So Ashok said, reflecting on the We Robot event, we had 19 cyber cabs and 29 Model Ys. It's almost 50 driverless Teslas driving themselves. 1,300 trips transporting over 2,000 guests, continuous operation over 3.5 hours, and every trip was perfectly safe. It was amazing to see users take robo-taxis for granted. They didn't seem to think twice before crossing in front of it, walking alongside it, robo-taxis interacting with one another. The best part is that all the autonomy demonstrated was using close to production AI software, or will soon ship in V13. Finally, it took an immense amount of effort for the team to pull it off. Good job to the team.
Very good. Machine is back with his favorite topic, FSD 13, AI 3, AI 4. Machine, welcome back. We're doing so well without you, and let's see if we can do better with you. What are your thoughts on this upcoming release? Tesla AI team is hitting all their milestones. They're achieving one by one with the schedule they put out about a couple months ago. Do you think this success will continue on time? Do you expect FSD 13 release this month?
I don't know if it's going to be released this month. There's only 2 weeks left. So I expect, let's say, in the next month, hopefully it's released. I'm somewhat optimistic that it's going to be a significant leap forward if I trusted the charlatan CEO of Tesla who said that it's going to increase the miles per necessary intervention by like 6x. That's substantial. And
the CEO didn't say that. The AI team said that.
Then I correct myself, even better. So maybe that's why I felt optimistic. So I am optimistic because they've really specified necessary interventions as being, that's kind of close to critical. So I'm expecting good things here, and it'll be interesting to watch the rollout and avoid the YouTube mainstreamers like Omar who just fawn over every update no matter what. It's like the boy who cried wolf every time. So we need to wait from real testers. I don't know if we have any real testers in the audience, but I'm going to find some that I trust. I'm going to do my own research. And I do expect, though, however, that we will see significant progress. In the meantime, in the disappointing side, look at how far Tesla's AI team has come here, hitting all these targets. And meanwhile, we have Omar, who's allegedly Indian. Maybe he's like from Kashmir or something, and he can't pronounce an Indian name. This is embarrassing for you.
Wow. He delivered, ladies and gentlemen. Ellie.
Omar, I have a question for you. See if you can answer it. Basically, with the new title that Ashok has, what do you think
Okay,
that?
so that would be number 6 version
Well,
of the
yeah,
guy's name.
that's with the Israeli accent.
Never heard that before. Ashok, really?
Yeah, that's the accent. Anyway, with the new title, what do you think that what they can push now that Ashok is standing in the president of AI? What can we see? What can we expect from Ashok to deliver now?
Nothing. I mean, titles don't mean anything. We just make them up. I'm the director of this and that. Oh, I'm the VP of, it doesn't matter what the title is. He's going to be doing really the same job that he's been doing, but his role is expanded. It's not just the FSD anymore. It's not just autopilot. The director of autopilot software was kind of an inappropriate title given that he's also in charge of Optimus software. So VP of AI, I think, is an appropriate title given the expanded focus of the company.
Machine, what do you expect from the V13 rollout? I mean, it's going to happen in the next few months. It's not going to happen all at once. Maybe it'll go out to a couple of external cars, maybe including Omar's car by the end of October. But it's going to take a few months to roll out to mass market. Wide release, I define as majority of the cars. But what do you expect? What do you want it to solve? What would give you more confidence?
If the cars stop potentially running into objects. How about that?
So you want to see perfection before you think it's making good progress?
I mean, not running into things is the most important aspect of an autonomously.
It doesn't run into things.
Cars.
It's very, very rare for it to run into anything or even try.
Statistically, it still does too frequently. And we've seen that by watching other people's videos. Yes, does it happen, quote, that often? No. And this is where numbers are important, right? And if something happens and it's going to run into something once every 100 hours of YouTube videos, one time, that's, still once every, I don't know, 3,000 to 6,000 miles. That's still too often. It needs to be once.
It
needs to be once every 100,000 miles at minimum, right? So back calculate that to how many hours of YouTube videos you would watch someone driving before you see the car almost run into something. That's what we need to get to. All right. So people need to keep their eyes on the prize and keep numbers in their mind of how often something's supposed to happen. Right. And it needs to be once every 3,000 hours of video of people, these people like you with your dumb dash cam
Okay,
thing
excuse
pointed
me.
on your
I
thighs.
need to intervene. You're lowering the discussion quality here. You made your points. Let's move on to the counterpoints. Omar.
Yeah, so you're not going to necessarily be able to assess the performance by watching YouTube videos. I did offer Machine to upgrade your car to hardware 3 and to pay for it so you can actually run the software. Go and make the service appointment and let's get that done. The fact is, when people are posting YouTube videos, nobody posts a YouTube video called "My car drives in a straight line for 3 hours and doesn't mess up," right? It's boring. Oh, this went wrong. That is a good YouTube video. I can't remember the last time my car tried to bump into anything, which isn't to say it doesn't happen, but it's getting exceedingly rare. And the car's getting very good at safety critical stuff. Most of the interventions I have or complaints I have is like, okay, it braked a little too hard. It did this, it did that. Not necessarily it's trying to bump into something. And you hear this argument from the naysayers a lot, like, oh, it had an intervention. It had an intervention. When you have software and you let people go take it anywhere and try anything, there's going to be some interventions. Even Waymo, which is driverless, has interventions. They have remote interventions. Sometimes they even need to go get the car. They have a remote assistance team. So the key is really, can you get remote interventions or necessary interventions down to a level where they can be handled remotely rather than someone in the car? And then you can go driverless. But you know, to just say, "Oh, there's an intervention," it's like saying, you know, "Oh,
Right. The sky's blue.
yeah, the sky's blue."
Yeah.
Exactly. So what you really
Yeah.
want to look at is what is the rate of interventions. If it's really going down to thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles, you're tracking in the right direction. The fact that there's still an intervention itself should not be surprising.
Exactly. And it sounds like you guys both agree that the miles between critical disengagements is a very important metric. And Machine is at 100,000. He wants to see 100,000 miles between critical disengagements. Machine, do you think we're going to see that with V13?
Well, first of all, I don't necessarily think, we've talked about this before, the difference between a critical disengagement and an actual impending accident are two different things, right? And there's going to be some ratio there, and so that's hard to quantify depending on how it's defined, right? People who enter into FSD tracker, beta tracker, are using one definition or probably a variety of definitions, and what Tesla says in terms of necessary interventions is still somewhat different. So exactly what that ratio is, we don't know, but I do agree, obviously we're not looking at an absolute number, we're looking at the trends over time. But I just like to keep some scope in mind when people say we're, quote, almost there. Well, are we almost there? You need to actually know what final ratio we're at. And lastly, I would just mention Omar saying he can't remember the last time his car almost tried to run into something. And that's funny because I can remember the last time, because I was in the car and so was Meta, when your car attempted to kill the two most valuable members of the Tesla community by trying to run into a trash can. But no, luckily you had some instinct left in you, not for saving Meta or myself, but for saving your precious Tesla car from getting nicked. So I guess I have to thank you for that.
Omar.
Well, we actually went on another drive after that. We went down the same road and it didn't try and hit anything. I don't know if you remember that, but I think when you really look at the California DMV's data, and they share statistics on interventions being how many times Waymo has to get the car, their test fleet is about 20,000, I think actually 18,000 miles per intervention, and their driverless fleet is about 80,000 miles per intervention. So I agree. I would like to see Tesla get to 100,000, but even Waymo in their driverless fleet is only doing 80,000 miles between having to send someone to go get the car, right? So, the key again is don't let the car bump into anything. If the car's not going to hit anything, those moments where the car gets a little confused, someone can kind of remote in and give it a little bit of help. And then you have less and less of that over time. So I agree, the software does need to get much better, but it's also important to look at the driverless services that exist and say, okay, at around 20,000 miles to 80,000 miles, we can begin doing unsupervised testing.
Okay, great. I'm really enjoying this discussion. I see it. There's a bunch of hands up. We're going to continue with FSC 13 expectations, but I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsors real quick with Machine on the board as well. Lots of participation, and let me know if you're on YouTube live chat. Let me know what your expectation is from FSD 13. What would you like it to solve for you? What kind of problems, issues that you run into? And what would you like Tesla AI team to solve for you first? While I read these sponsor ads. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Paymore, your trusted destination for buying, selling, trading, and recycling electronics. At Paymore, you can buy the latest gadgets at greatest prices, sell or trade your used electronics for cash or store credit, or recycle old or broken devices responsibly, helping to reduce electronic waste. And Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. At Joa, you'll find innovative charging solutions, stylish interior upgrades, protective gear, and cutting-edge tech add-ons. Use promo code TSLA Live at checkout to receive a special discount on your next purchase. Thank you, Paymore and Joa, for sponsoring Tesla Live and the Tesla community. All right, let's go to a bunch of hands up. Ellie, go.
I just want to say that I'm willing to guess, and it's my assumption that most people in this space just excited about FSD and just want to hear experience and what the future can be. I think we can all agree that obviously it's still work in progress. We know that it's the only company that can do it. Every now and again, comparing what FSD can do to Waymo, I think it's just machine trying to be to basically to be fond for he want Gordon Johnson to use him as a resource.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he has his good days, bad days. He probably jumped from the wrong side of the bed today, which is fine. But I need specifics. Like, for example, Truth to a T in live chat says we need reverse capability on FSD 13. Reverse capability is one of the outstanding items, and I see Omar giving that a like. So that's one. I need to hear more. Brian Silver says FSD 13, please keep in lane on tight curves in the road, currently taking wide turns and even crossing the center line occasionally. Omar, what else can we expect from FSD 13?
I mean, honestly, I have no clue. The one thing they did tell us is that it's going to be able to reverse, it's going to be able to park, and it's going to be able to unpark. So that is really important because FSD 13 represents the car essentially having all the functionality it needs to be driverless. It can reverse, it can park, it can unpark, it can do the drive from start to finish. Of course, there's still going to be interventions. But once the interventions get down low enough, all the features are there, right? It's finally truly feature complete. Maybe there's a few things here and there that needed to be added, but all the main things, it can do the entire drive, it can park, it can unpark. So, I mean, we saw them give driverless rides using the software. This is really them finishing all the last features they need to really have a driverless car. Doesn't mean it's going to be intervention free with the first build in your area, but it's going to have all the functionality it needs to do all your driving for you.
Thank you. Machine?
I feel so insulted. I did I hear that right? Ellie called me like a Gordon Johnson. That is hugely insulting.
They said you're trying to get hired as one of Gordon Johnson's experts.
Even worse. Well, I was, I guess, just to educate him. But I think Ellie was trying to insult me. And Ellie, I know Yom Kippur just passed. So you have like 360 days to think about what you did before you apologize to me.
All right. Machine, ChatGPT grades the speakers after each episode. And when you apply yourself, you provide insightful details, you score very high. But usually you score very low. because you diverge from the main discussion, and I score higher when I bring you back. So give us one thing. Come on, give us something. Go ahead.
Well, I had a great conversation with the esteemed speaker, Meta, who sadly does not come to your space anymore. And he had his own space, much highly rated space, as ChatGPT would be aware. And we discussed some intricacies about Tesla's AI training. And, one thing he thought was that I asked about what do we think is the limiting factor for development of reducing disengagements and such. And he thinks it's training compute. And I kind of left it at that. And I was just thinking, it's interesting because they're going to be bringing on this, they're calling it Cortex, right? The compute cluster in Austin. And Musk had said that that's going to be specifically training for hardware 4. But if they're limited by compute right now, and they're just doing everything with the lower resolution cameras, right, for hardware 3, even running it on hardware 4, then why wouldn't they use that new compute to keep pushing these models to get them better accuracy, even with a lower camera resolution? So it's just a thought I had. And I think as ChatGPT hears this question, it's going to evaluate the space and say that was the best thought process that he's heard on this space, or she's heard.
Yeah, listen, I can tell, just like you're behind the times with FSD on your hardware 2 or 2.5, whatever you have, you're behind the times on ChatGPT. It doesn't get swayed by your attempts to train live. It reads right through that nonsense. So just please give your best as much as you can. I know it's very difficult for you. I know you have the capacity, but you can do it. I believe in you.
Well, listen.
Let's go to Amped Up.
Yeah, I wanted to share something about critical disengagement. I posted a video in response to one person, her name is Jilly Bean, where a cyclist came in front and she hit the brake, calling it a disengagement. I had the exact same situation happen to me. I didn't touch anything. FSC stopped. So how do you really define a critical disengagement without knowing what's going to happen? That's all the point I want to make.
Well, Tesla can't predict these things just because of the. Omar, go ahead.
Yeah, Tesla obviously has a lot of insight internally into what the software is doing. They can see what the predicted path of the software is. So let's say the software had started slowing or was about to slow, but the user disengaged anyway, which, by the way, is the right thing to do. What you shouldn't do is say, let's see if the software hits him. Oops, it did. Now I'm, being charged with manslaughter. So just hit the brake anyway, even if you think it's going to hit it. Tesla can see, okay, that wasn't actually a necessary intervention because the software would have stopped. But ideally, the software just responds before, the user can even think of it. So they are able to break down what's actually necessary and what isn't. But there is a lot of subjectivity in interventions. Someone might intervene just because the car took a turn suddenly and they didn't expect it or something, right? There's human judgment in what is an intervention and what isn't. Sometimes people will take over when they didn't need to. Sometimes people won't take over when they should have.
Very good. Dallas?
Yeah, the last point kind of touches on exactly what I wanted to bring up for 13. I think Omar said it best. We're getting to the point of feature complete. So what I would kind of look forward to is maybe even an additional feature on the back end for beta testers to have more clarity on the analytics and the reporting side. What does Tesla classify as a safety critical disengagement? The Waymo conversation you guys had on YouTube was perfect, and you touched on one thing Waymo's very good at is they put those statistics online for everyone to see. So that'd be something that would clear up a lot of these misconceptions. People like Dan O'Dowd, who will tell you that there's a critical disengagement every 8 miles. Well, gone would be the days of that, because we'd all have clear and concise data to report on.
There's a lot of progress being made on FSD data. This can be measured independently. We don't have to rely on Dan O'Dowd or Tesla. I mean, I think Tesla's obviously going to have to share a lot of data before they go driverless, but we can also measure ourselves. So I'm working on my little project Tesla Scope is also working on a project which is going to share FSD data through their platform. They're going to be making it available for free, so you don't have to pay for Tesla Scope to be able to contribute data in an anonymized way to this FSD tracker. So in the coming years, I think we're going to see big leaps forward in FSD data from the community, not just a few people submitting to a spreadsheet, more mass automated data collection that really gives us a much better picture into what's happening.
Thank you. Kwai?
Looks like Machine left. I was going to invite him to come to Paradise and launch my Cyber Beast and drive around an FSD and prove that we're all wrong.
Dude, that guy can't go over one town to meet Omar for FSD rides. You think he's gonna fly out to Hawaii? All right. Any other comments? All right. So Omar, how confident are you that we're gonna see Banish with FSD 13?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we could see it. It's on the roadmap, so I mean, they just said park and unpark, so park at the end of the drive, unpark. In terms of whether it's able to do that driverlessly, I guess we'll have to see. But we're in October 16th now. In a couple weeks, I think we'll know exactly what FSD 13 has in it if they make their schedule.
Very good, thank you. And what about Grok integration?
Grok integration sounded like it wasn't that far along based on comments Musk made on Adrian Dittman's space a week or two ago. Someone asked him, "Hey, are we gonna have Grok on Teslas?" He's like, yeah, we're gonna have Grok on Teslas." It didn't sound like something that was being actively worked on, but it also didn't sound like something that should take that much development time. They said they're just going to use the API, so it won't actually be inferencing the model locally on the car. He said the model's far too big for that. So they're just going to reach out to the Grok API and query it that way. So maybe a holiday release could be a great holiday update.
Thank you, Omar. Ellie, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Omar two questions. One about Grok, one about FSD. I don't know if you saw the video I tagged you on a few days ago, Omar, of a Tesla trying to avoid a pedestrian that fell into the road. And the result of that was that the Tesla took a left turn and had a head-on collision with another car. I don't know if you saw it and what's your take on it. And about Grok, any chance that Tesla will have to buy XAI so we have Grok in the car, or that's just far-fetched?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did float the idea of doing an investment in XAI. I think that could be a great start, is just to take a position in XAI. I'm not sure an acquisition makes sense at this time, given where XAI is, pre-revenue, pre-earnings, etc. Massive costs, likely the need to raise many more times with dilutive fundraising to be competitive in the AI space. But longer term, 5-10 years, I could see the companies potentially merging in some form.
All right, thank you. Any other final comments on FSD 13? Please request to speak, raise your hand. Otherwise, we're going to switch topics. Dallas.
Yeah, I think the obvious last one to state is we're halfway through version 12 and we still have these things hitting curbs, not nearly as much as they used to, but Tesla owner Silicon Valley's video, he hit a curb on the last version. So I think that has to be a thing of the past, in my opinion.
Okay, so FSD 13 hopefully going out to external customer cars in the next few weeks, and they're rolling out wide in the next few months. Hopefully, it's going to bring park on park, some improvements in miles between critical disengagements, and then we'll see what else. We're about to find out what else. Thank you very much, Omar, and everyone else who contributed to this discussion. Earlier, for those of you who just joined, we discussed wireless charging in depth. second half hour, we discussed FSD 13 release, and now we're switching to Elon's campaigning in Pennsylvania. Elon just announced that he's going to be campaigning for Trump in Pennsylvania. Omar, what are your initial thoughts on the matter?
Well, oh God, what's he doing on the campaign trail? But also, I think this is important to him. He has stated his opinion very clearly that he feels that the Biden-Harris administration has slowed down his companies. And I think he's hopeful that a Trump administration could change that. So, this is no secret. He's been pretty open about how he feels politically. We're 3 weeks away from the election now. Let's see what happens.
Thank you. Any views? Please request to speak. Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, just curious. I'm still on version 12.4.1, 5.4.1, and along the way, I do a lot of highway driving, and some of the concerns I have are the vehicle always wanted to be in the center lane, and I still have a lot of cars that are past me on the right. I've had many occasions where I need to exit and the car doesn't move over. If it's heavy traffic, of course, the car doesn't move over soon enough, and therefore I miss an exit. Has anybody experienced that, or is that one of the focuses on version 13 that might be addressed?
Well, obviously, and apologies if you know this, but you can obviously use the turn signal to get FSD to manually change lanes if it's not in the lane you want, which is helpful. With FSD 12.5.6, they've completely thrown away the highway stack and moved to a new end-to-end highway stack. So hopefully that resolves some of the issues you're seeing on the highway. It's a dramatic difference compared to the old stack, the old highway stack. So 12.5.6, once that one goes into wide release, you don't even have to wait for V13. Should be a big improvement to highway driving.
Fantastic. That's great. I will give that a try. Thanks for your help.
Haley, go ahead.
Guys, it's been an hour since the space started. We have only 106 likes. Don't let Yaman stop talking for half a minute for more likes. Please hit the like button. Smash the like button.
Thank you, Ellie. We're up to 151. Let's see if we can get to 250 in the next 10 minutes. All right.
Yeah, so back to the campaign trail. My biggest fear
Paul
is
Ryan,
that
just hold on
Elon.
for 1 second. Freddie?
Yeah, I just wanted to opine on 12.5 fixing that issue with the path planning on the highways. I've done some testing on that. I have a Plaid Model X that has 12.3, and then I have the Cybertruck that has 12.5.5. The 12.5.5 stack that does end-to-end on the highway greatly improves the planning for lane changes on the highway. And I found that sometimes it will even the car will even make lane changes before like a solid line has turned into a dotted line, especially where that changeover is very short distance. So if you have like a cloverleaf situation on two highway interchange, you'll often see that transition being really short. 12.3 would always struggle to make that without intervention. 12.5.5 fixes that completely.
Thank you, Dallas.
Yeah, a question for Omar. Omar, can you clarify? Are there actually still vehicles out there on 12.3.6?
I don't think so. I think 12.5.4 is the majority version now. 12.5.4.1 is very good. It's probably a little better than 12.5.6. Although Dirty Tesla said, wow, this version's so good I could get in the back seat, which I was like, wow, that's really interesting comment coming from him. I mean, end to end on the highway is just doing things that you're like, wow, it's just driving like a human. Your jaw will be on the floor watching it do some of these lane changes and doing some of these things. It really is a big leap from the old highway stack, and they've just completely thrown that in the trash. The old sort of robotic driving feel is going to be a thing of the past. It drives on the highway just as naturally as it drives on city streets now. It does need a couple tweaks. I'm sometimes seeing it brake a little hard on city streets, but overall it looks pretty good. I think they'll do maybe a 12.561 or something, and then we could see it go wide maybe this weekend.
Thank you. Sean Kelly, did you have a question or comment on FSC or campaign?
About the campaign.
Okay, let's switch back to campaign trail. Let's go to Paul Ryan and then Sean.
Yes, thank you, Omar. So my biggest concern with Elon, politics is very dangerous right now. We've seen 3 attempts of assassination on Trump, and I'm really concerned that something could possibly happen to him. And that's my only fear. But other than that, I think the man has a reason to preach because his companies are being affected by politics.
All right. I mean, that's a great point, and I heard the same concern from many replies to the question I asked today about how you feel about this campaign trail initiative. Omar, what do you say to those people that there's an increased risk to Elon?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a risk that if the Democrats win, his companies could face further slowdowns, further delays. I mean, regulatory issues with autonomy. So, he's doing what he thinks is best. Maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea, but he's become, according to the Wall Street Journal, one of the most influential political figures in our country. And that's probably good for his companies overall.
Sean Kelly.
So, campaign finance is a big focus of mine, and some people are really good at it. Like the Koch brothers, they actually contribute to both parties. So, regardless of the party in power, they always win. I was hoping Elon would have taken that same approach.
Dallas.
Yeah, question for anyone who knows on this topic. Can anyone lend any credence or the opposite of to Polymarket? I mean, I know we're seeing a lot of that on our feeds. Trump has a 12% lead or 20% lead on Polymarket. Can anyone dive into detail on what that actually means, or is that material at all?
So it's a bunch of foreigners that are making bets on who they believe will win. They must have strong conviction because they are putting their own money on the line. But I don't believe they would know anything that we don't know. And I don't think that Trump has that large of a lead.
Sean Kelly, would you please elaborate on the phrase bunch of foreigners? How do you know that is foreigners betting mostly?
I believe in the United States, you're not allowed to make bets on Polymarket because I've tried several times from different states and I've not been allowed to. So my understanding is that as outside of the United States, that market is available.
Can anyone confirm or deny that on the board? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. But does anyone know the amount of money that's turning over in these betting markets? Dallas. Yeah, Omar, go ahead.
These betting markets have become a pretty huge thing. So there's a difference between national polling and who's going to win the election, right? So you may have a candidate like Hillary Clinton who wins the popular vote, but if she doesn't win the right states, she's not going to be elected president of the United States. So really the betting market, they're betting money on the outcome. It's a simple website, Americans can play, foreigners can play. It's the predictive power of the market here, right? You have people just betting their money saying, I think what's going to happen. This encourages people. People can just make dumb bets like, oh, I love Trump, I think he's going to win.
but I'm in a Waymo right now and it's driving so slow. This is bizarre. It's like 15 and a 35, but people, foreigners, anyone can make bets, but the idea is that people do their homework, they try and make an educated guess at who's actually going to win, and that the bets kind of tell a story there. So how predictive will they actually be? We don't know. It's not a traditional way to predict an election, but there are some people who believe that because the market price is a reflection of people really doing their homework and figuring out what's going to happen, it can be more accurate than just looking at a national poll.
Eric in YouTube Live Chat says Americans cannot bet on Polymarket, but there are other betting websites. Eric also says you can do so in Kalshi. And I see Uzi's hand. Uzi, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up Kalshi is the only legal betting market. That was one half of my statement. The other half is I think Druckenmiller was, I don't know, probably on a CNBC interview, and he said, a lot of the stock market is waiting in a Trump victory. So there's different measures to, I guess, weighing machines to see other than polls for this election. As for Elon going on the campaign trail, I think he's in maybe like a demon mode, survival mode, gremlin mode, whatever you want to call it. And I'm for it. I think he realizes there's an existential risk to the future of Tesla. I don't really know if that's going to happen in the next 4 years, but it would greatly accelerate Tesla's future with a Republican administration that's friendly.
Dallas.
Yeah, I kind of did a little bit of my own homework here while the other speakers are talking. There's $500 million currently wagered on Trump to win the election on Polymarket in particular. Right now, it's a 59% to 41% gap, which is the largest by almost 3x that they've had since these two candidates were the two frontrunners on Polymarket.
Yeah, there's an interesting divergence going on right now between these betting websites versus polling websites like Nate Silver's website. So polls are showing that Kamala Harris is still a bit ahead. Betting markets are heavily favoring Trump. So I guess we'll see what happens in time. But again, every person has a vote, but these betting markets are sometimes influenced by people with more money than less money. Let's go to Uzi, then Sean Kelly.
Yeah, you made a great point that the amount of money can influence the like how the vote seems to be turning out. I will say though, on behalf of the financial market and then Polymarket or Kalshi, that they are more real time, whereas a poll, I would assume it is slower, and you're calling people on their phones. Like I don't even have a house phone anymore, so that might bias the population.
Sean Kelly.
So Omar is right. And I've heard a bunch of experts say that the Democrat nominee has to win the popular vote by more than 5% in order to have an equal shot at winning the Electoral College. The polls that I've seen in the swing states vary so wildly, and their margin of error is pretty big. But I just think that the women vote is underrated in this regard because they had a right and a freedom, and it was taken away from them. And I can't think of anything more impactful for getting butts out of couches and into polls.
Thank you, Sean. Tokens, go ahead. Tokens, you may unmute yourself and go ahead. All right. Any final comments? Any final comments on the topic? Otherwise, we're going to change topics.
Yeah, in addition to the women portion of the vote, I'm hearing the same thing. I'm also hearing a lot of murmuring from the dead that they're going to come out and vote in troves this year, even more so than in 2020. So that should fare well for Kamala.
I can't let that stand. There's no evidence of any voter fraud that was enough to affect the election. And that statement comes from Donald Trump's attorney general.
It was a joke.
Have you?
Yeah,
there-
I can't really read the framing.
Okay, Sean, please, like everybody else, stay on mute, raise your hand, and wait until you're called upon.
Yes, sir.
Uzi.
I was just joking. I asked him if he's seen Jimmy Carter before. I hope you guys get the reference.
All right, that was a good discussion on the elections. I think it's important to summarize that the beta markets are showing Trump leading by a wide margin, whereas at the same time, polls are showing. I don't know if I necessarily agree that the beta markets are more real time than the polls summarized by Nate Silver. They update these polls every day, and they are very careful about who they select to call. They try to come up with a diverse group of people they call. So I would weigh both of those separately and kind of think about these things on a more collective basis. Sean?
Yeah. So it's interesting the 180 turn that I've taken on polls, because when Hillary Clinton was leading in all of the swing states and Trump won, I was like, okay, what is real? So yeah, I get why people would question the polls, and rightly so.
Yeah, Nate Silver also published a blog post about why he got it wrong. And anyway, let's move on. Any other comments? I think that was a good summary. Let's move on from this topic. There's one more thing that you're going to discuss today that we couldn't really get to yesterday is Uber versus Tesla. Uber CEO made comments about partnering with Tesla. Omar?
Yeah, just last comment. Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania will decide who becomes president. The other states don't matter.
Yeah, and that's why Elon's in Pennsylvania doing a tour. Do we know exactly where he's going to be when?
No, I think he said he's going to do several throughout the state. He did go to college at UPenn in Pennsylvania, so he probably still has friends and stuff in Pennsylvania. That's probably why he's been there a little more.
I wanted to talk about Uber, but I will say
1 second.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, Yaman, if it's possible to talk about the 7-seater Model Y as well.
Yeah, I saw those messages and the replies and everything. I just don't know how big of a market that is in Europe, but you can go ahead.
I guess my question to the audience, to the speaker board, is do you guys think that Tesla is doing it right now after all these years to try to get rid of the inventory of Model Y before the Juniper comes out?
Anyone want to take that question?
I mean, it's kind of, I think, refresh agnostic, whether they're going to do the refresh or not. I think they wanted to bring the 7-seater to Europe and Middle East. The Model Y 7-seater is really just 2 small seats that can fit children in the rear. But if you have small children, then it can be very useful. So good that they're bringing it to the European market. Not the hugest story in the world. Probably not even that material, but good to see it's available there.
All right, I got a request to read the sponsor info again from one of our audience members. Never had that before. That's the first. But while I do that, in the next 30 seconds, please go up to the top of your screens, click into that YouTube link. And if you're enjoying this discussion, help us grow, help us push this space to new viewers so that we can bring you better information every single day. You can do that in the next 30 seconds while I read these sponsor ads. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Paymore, your trusted destination for buying, selling, trading, and recycling electronics. Looking to upgrade your tech? Want to turn your old devices into cash? With over 100 stores nationwide, Paymore makes it easy and secure. Join the Paymore revolution today. Visit one of their stores near you, or check them out online at paymore.com. And Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. Are you looking to elevate your driving experience? Look no further than Joa. They offer a wide range of high-quality accessories designed specifically for Tesla owners who demand the best. Use promo code TSLA Live at checkout to receive a special discount on your next purchase. Thank you, Paymore and Joa, for supporting Tesla Live and the Tesla community. All right, let's switch. Sean Kelly.
I just wanted to thank you for bringing up that topic, and then you could send me out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I enjoy, and we're trying to have a more structured conversation every half hour per topic so that people can bring in, listen to what they want to listen to. In the first half hour, we talked about wireless charging. In the second half hour, we talked about FSD 13. In the third half hour, we talked about Elon's campaign trail efforts for Trump. And next, we have Uber versus Tesla. Uber CEO made comments around willingness to partner with Tesla, buy cars just like Travis Kalanick did back in the day 10 years ago. And I really want to understand people's views. We have a wide-ranging views on this topic, whether Tesla should partner with Uber or should go vertically integrate and offer its own robotaxi service. Let's start with Alexander. Alexander, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that Tesla should just launch a rideshare network. Let all Tesla owners join the network. Pay them good. Go for zero margins to push into the market until unsupervised FSD is a thing. I mean, I don't want to share
there are
any.
many.
Yeah, so I was about to. I was about to say I don't want, as a Tesla investor, to share any revenue with some company that I'm not invested in.
Okay, so Alexander offers a service start with drivers, and for Tesla to pay drivers first. This is an interesting view that is shared by many people, that Tesla should start a robotaxi service. I mean, I guess by definition, that's not a robotaxi service, but an Uber-like service with drivers. Let's go to Wave.
Yeah, I was probably on Alexander's camp a week ago at the We Robot, and I was wondering why they didn't introduce at least the app or show the app or talk about it. But I now realize Elon is a master of resource allocation, and there is no downside in offering Uber, and that he can throttle that as needed, X number of vehicle, because there's a lot more involved in managing a fleet beside the network access that Uber has created. It's validating the drivers, liability management, and that's not their core competency right now. And they have enough areas where resource allocation takes priority.
Yeah, I'm in the camp that Uber can be both maybe a collaborator, not an outright partner, and then also a competitor. I mean, if Uber wants to buy a robotaxi fleet, then they should be able to be a customer. And that shouldn't stop Tesla from selling to them. It really just accelerates the autonomous vision. So, yeah, I also wanted to note Bradford came on the space yesterday and said some of 1010 got cut out, and I think there was more merit to that. So the app portion of the presentation might have got cut out. A Wave is down something me, but maybe I don't know. Come and speak, Wave.
I thought the same a bit, not because of the. I really think it's resource allocation, and there's a lot more complexity once I think through what it takes to spool that whole end up. Even as a driver, I would have loved to say, okay, let's just get some training done as a supervised fleet within Tesla, but the return on investment is not there.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a number of people coalescing around the idea that Tesla should start a service with drivers. Eric, however, on YouTube live chat says, Tesla does not need Uber. They should integrate with the X app and has something like 100 million Americans using it. Interesting idea. That's a different angle. Appreciate all the good comments coming in from YouTube live chat. Paul Ryan.
Yeah, and what I would say is that Uber, Waymo, their number have been called. They know that they're at risk of losing everything probably next 5 years. And I think that with Turo, if you guys are familiar with that, where they have you actually deliver your car, if Tesla released the robotaxi with a driver, that would kill the market instantly because I would use my car in my downtime to make money. So I think that perhaps that might be the initial way they roll out robotaxis as an option for you to use your current Tesla.
Well, let me
On
ask
that
you
way.
something, Paul Ryan. Let me push back a little bit. So, do
Sure.
you drive for Uber today?
I do not.
So then, why don't you do that if you would do it for Tesla? Is it just to kind of train FSD and let them develop this robotaxi network?
Yeah, I think it's because I'm all for the Musk autonomy. I think that this could build more value in Tesla. So because of that, I would support it that way and making some cash on the side while showing my Tesla off. Perhaps even the opportunity to use it as a referral opportunity to make money also that way. There's so many different ways I think that on Tesla's network it would be more advantageous.
Omar, what do you think about that idea?
I think supervised autonomy or with Tesla or a supervised ride share could be a little bit better than Uber for the driver. But, obviously not everybody has a Tesla. So far more people are going to be driving for Uber, obviously, than Tesla. I think Tesla's not going to partner with Uber. It's good to hear that Uber is open to doing a partnership, but what we actually need to do is make something that's better than Uber and better on both sides, on the supply and the demand side. That's what's kind of unique here. So Waymo, it's kind of interesting. Their product is not as good as Uber. It takes longer. It's slower. It has less cars, so you have a higher wait time. Tesla's going to build a product that's actually better than Uber, where it's in the Tesla app, not just because that's the app you already have, but because you're actually going to be able to control the car, control the climate, control the settings, control everything about the car. So with Waymo and Cruise and these others who've signed up to join the Uber network, they're partnering on the demand side, which is for the rider, you could get an autonomous car, you could get a human-driven car. But what Tesla is actually doing that's very different and interesting is they're actually attacking Uber on the supply side as well. Because Uber's two things. Uber's a way to get a ride, and it's also a way to make money for people. So if you can convince people, hey, instead of driving on Uber, what if you owned a fleet of Teslas? And Elon talked about this a little at the event. He said people could own their own fleets, they could make money. That's something that Waymo's not offering. You can't go and buy a Waymo and use it to make money. Even if you could, it would probably cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With the Tesla model, you can actually buy a car for $30,000 and send it out and make money, send out multiple cars even. So if you have something where the riders actually like the Tesla better because they have more control over the car, it's more predictable, it's a nicer car, and they're switching over. But at the same time, the drivers are also saying, this is a better experience for me because of FSD, because of maybe unsupervised. Then you start to really kind of challenge the Uber business model, and they'll need to scale up autonomy from other providers to compete.
Thank you, Omar. Sean Kelly.
I believe Tesla shared snippets of their app in the last quarter's shareholder deck. So I don't think making an app will be any difficult for the Tesla team. But I wonder what a partnership with Uber would even, could even help Tesla. Like, what does Tesla need from Uber if they were to seek out this partnership? Because I can't think of anything.
I can argue the other side a little bit on that. So, for example, Uber has now more than a decade experience matching demand with supply and optimizing various factors that make these services successful. And Tesla would have to obviously start from zero. So it's not like there's no benefit to partnering with an Uber. But But let's hear from others as well. Uzi?
Yeah, I think matching demand and supply. You have a large customer that's willing to, even a commercial customer compared to retail like us who buy maybe one car. They buy maybe thousands. So that's one thing. And then at the end of the day, I think Uber is a middleman, and it doesn't mean necessarily Tesla will partner with Uber, but that it might collaborate. And so being a customer and competitor are both compatible.
Alexander?
Yeah, I agree that Uber has been in the game for a long time, and that's why Tesla should start right now.
Ryan?
I live in Canada, and cyber robotaxi will be operational in the States long before here. Are you aware of any groups that are forming to kind of come together to share capital to invest in fleets?
That's irrelevant to the topic at hand. Sorry, Ryan. Yeah, we're sticking with the topic. We have a lot of hands who want to comment on the topic at hand. Wait.
In addition to the benefit that you mentioned, Yaman, there is regulation and approval necessary, and expanding into new geographies that you get that automatically, plus all the management of even a shepherd. Let's say you might have shepherds working for Uber that have multiple pieces of hardware, but Uber itself, think of it as one large shepherd of the number of robotaxis that Tesla chooses to sell to them, and it gives them a good opportunity to test out and let them make the initial investment of servicing, charging, cleaning, maintaining the sub shepherds.
Okay, thank you, Wade. All right.
A possibility of Uber being bought out by Tesla wouldn't be, I think, too crazy. But I think that
No, that's not. That's actually really crazy.
right, it's
Sorry,
crazy.
Paul. Sean Kelly.
So I get the argument about Uber knows demand for rides, but wouldn't Tesla have data from their fleet? So like they see when cars are being driven. Wouldn't that also be parallel to when riders would have demand?
Alexander.
Yeah, I also want to say there's several countries that actually don't have Uber in the sense that you have it. For example, in Sweden, there is Uber, but if you call an Uber, it's a regular cab that is going to pick you up.
Let's go through the speaker board real quick, one by one, and I want a one-word answer. Would you partner with Uber, or would you vertically integrate if you were Elon Musk today? Let's start with Alexander. Partner or do it?
Hell no.
All right, maybe 2 words is better. Would you partner or vertically integrate?
I will vertically integrate.
Okay, Alexander vertically integrates. Uzi?
Absolutely vertically integrate.
Okay.
Yeah, vertically integrate.
Town.
Vertically integrate.
Wait.
Uber as a customer for the first 5 years.
So he wants to partner for first 5 years?
Not partner, as a
Sean
customer.
Okay.
Tesla vertically integrates with everything else. Why not this?
Vertically integrate.
Okay, Omar, I want to ask you something. So a lot of people are saying Tesla should start. I mean, this has been a lingering suggestion for the last 5 years that Tesla should start the Uber-like service with drivers first. Are you for or against that?
For.
Wow. So there's no one against it. Amazing. Interesting. Let me know in YouTube live chat what you think. let's see what they have. Tech Control says Tesla has all the data they need, no need to partner. There's so many Teslas already using the Uber network. So Tesla can't get the data through those Teslas. This is true. Paul Grant says FSD is supposed to be 10 times better than a human. Why have a human driver? Well, not yet, but in the future. Uzi.
Yeah, I think in the possible world, Uber is a customer. They're outright buying a robotaxi, and then also I think paying software like the software as a service fee. Whereas when robotaxi hopefully becomes mainstream, it Tesla is the outright service provider, and so it's too far to see where the margins are. I'd assume it would be better for Tesla to vertically integrate, but we don't know the robotaxi economics entirely yet.
Well, everybody is on the same page on the speaker board about vertical integration. So that's not a debate anymore. The debate is around whether Tesla should start the service with drivers first. I mean, I guess the counter argument to that is like, why worry about driver service first and then also worry about removing the drivers competing with your customers? Yeah, I don't know. If Tesla's getting all the data it needs from these Teslas on the Uber network, what benefit does it also get from starting a service with drivers first? So I'm actually in between. Let's go to Alexander.
Yeah, it's going to increase sales of Teslas, and it's going to increase the tick rate of FSD. That is what a network would do right now.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because a lot of people who say, like when they come up to speakerboard and they say, oh, I would use it, I would drive for the Tesla service. And I ask them, do you drive for the Uber service? They're like, no. So I don't know if that's necessarily true. Hustle Town.
Yeah, the only thing I think that would be a huge benefit for them would be the familiarity with using the Tesla app. So getting people familiar with going into the app, getting the ride-hail service from the supervised people, and then having to transition to the unsupervised.
Okay, thank you, Hustle Town.
So,
Kelly.
Yeah, the bigger question so I am an Uber driver myself. I live in a tourist town that I also operate Turo. So I feel like it's a great market for me that I'm very, very interested in. My biggest question at the moment is how fast can we get this started? So I think what comes to my mind is how quick can they get into the market and start? Because I mean, if they opened up orders yesterday, I'd already order at least 3 if I could, regardless whether I drive them or not. It would be perfect for my fleet, coming to or from the airport as usual, or even just doing Uber in general. And I clean cars all the time. This would fit perfectly into me. So, but that's my question: is how quick can we get it? So, does that mean they're going to get relative or regulatory approval quicker if they partner with Uber or not? That'd be fine by me. I don't care. However they want to figure that out.
Thank you, Sean Kelly.
So the benefit that I see for Tesla doing, supervised ride hailing is they can soft launch the Tesla app, get that all ironed out, make sure that that's running stable, and get riders to actually download the app and use it, and then it'll be seamless whenever we just remove the driver.
Okay, Ellie.
One addition to what everybody just said, if you have the app and you are a great passenger with great tips and the driver rates you, the higher score because you clean and the tips are great, you can get some points or some money in your account for the next car, for the next Tesla. And if you're a great driver, you might get some money to buy FSD in the future.
Alexander.
Yeah, if Tesla does what I said, like go for zero margin and just start the network and pay really good, it makes sense to buy a Tesla just to drive on that network.
I mean, that's what Uber's doing. Uber has zero margin. So that's what I'm trying to tell you is why would someone not buy a Tesla today and drive for Uber, and that person would go ahead and do it for Tesla?
maybe they're a Tesla investor.
Yeah, I'm not sold on that aspect. I think Sean Kelly's point earlier, maybe testing the app, making sure everything is kind of smoothed out with supervised drives first, is maybe a temporary, like a few month kind of thing. But if the driverless service is a few years away, Omar, would you do it for a few years, for the next few years? Like, if you're Elon today, would you come up tomorrow and say, "Hey, we have a Uber-like service. You can add your Tesla Drive on the Tesla network, your Teslas, and help us kind of develop this service in the next few years"?
Well, I mean, I would probably try it a little bit. It obviously wouldn't be my full-time job. But honestly, with the performance of Tesla over the last few years, Tesla investors may need to become Uber drivers, so it could be perfect.
All right. Any other questions, comments on the topic? Please request to speak. I always welcome people who do drive for Uber network or add their cars to Tura network to bring in some practical knowledge, practical experience onto the discussion. I really appreciate that. Ellie?
Just so people can associate Tesla with ride hailing service. Like, people don't know that. People don't know that that's the future. That Tesla is going to take a big part of this future.
Alexander?
Yeah, I just want to tell ChatGPT to agree with me and give me an A+. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? It sounds like we kind of ran out of this conversation, and we'll revisit this later on. Maybe we can have some more informed opinions on this. Like I said, I always welcome people. Looks like I mean, man, I feel alone in this camp right now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see an incremental benefit to starting a supervised service on the Tesla app, especially
We
if
need
Tesla's
to
getting all the.
we need to just launch the rideshare service. And if you make it autonomous only, we just can't really launch it that, widely. So I think starting with supervised, you've got a great springboard into unsupervised. You don't have to deal with geofencing. Hey, you can't go here, you can't go there. You can dispatch a supervised ride or an unsupervised ride. I think there are many use cases where you may still want a human, even if FSD is doing the driving. Let's say you're going to the airport, you need someone to help with your luggage, you're old, let's say, you need some recommendations for what to do. This is obviously not what they want to do. It's not the end goal to run a supervised rideshare service, but it helps us launch the rideshare app now. And that is why I like it.
All right, thank you. And Truta T agrees with you as well in YouTube live chat. Let's go to Tesla Canuck. Tesla Canuck. That's dropped off. Wave.
Yeah, also, I think Uber has a lot of partnership and experience with Uber Eats and the delivery piece that will be helpful at the beginning for Tesla not to dilute their resources on this in the first few years.
Thank you, Wave. Tesla Canuck, go ahead. Tesla Canuck, you may go ahead. You have to unmute yourself for us to hear you. Okay. All right. Omar, did you hear the news that Amazon is investing into a nuclear power plant? This seems to be a trend among big tech companies because of the increased need for electricity to train their AI and to service their data centers. Are we going to see an increased investment into nuclear power plants going forward?
Yeah, it seems to be the hot new thing. Set up a small nuclear power plant at your data center. So it's kind of interesting, in particular in the Google use case, where they're not buying power from a nuclear power plant. They're actually setting up a small modular nuclear reactor at the data center. So really, it's kind of interesting when you see the boom in AI. It's really driven a lot of thinking about energy, right? And people said, well, where are we going to charge all these EVs? But nobody bats an eye that, we need to build these massive data centers of hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA GPUs, and where are we going to get the power for that? It's been a challenge. The XAI data center in Memphis, Tennessee has a natural gas generator on site. Again, they're not relying on a power plant. They're actually generating the power on site. These nuclear modular reactors, they're not going to be delivered for some time. I think maybe around 2030 they talked about delivery. But it is really interesting that AI is really making us look at our energy grid, our electric grid, and looking at how we get our energy. You see AI really becoming a national security issue, where the country that has the best AI really has a national security advantage. So I think it's going to put a lot of attention on the electric grid, on building out that electric infrastructure we need, on innovating. And that's going to be good for EVs too, because EVs also run on electricity.
Thank you, Omar. Uzi, go.
Yeah, the BG2 podcast has been really great with nuclear, explaining it. One thing they mentioned is that the future of these nuclear power plants is that they will be clustered around data centers, just like Omar is describing. The BG2 podcast, when this is Brad Gurley and Bill Gessner, they were talking about Microsoft reviving 3 Mile Island. This was about 2 weeks ago, and that will start in 2028. And then Google yesterday announced that they're, I think, developing a nuclear reactor by 2030. So, big tech is really, for the reasons Omar described, it's getting heavily into nuclear.
Thank you, Sarah. Sarah, go. Did you guys hear?
No.
All right. So Omar says this is a few years away. Interesting take on nuclear power plants coming back into our society with the need for more electricity for AI. Interesting topic that we can explore further. Alexander, go.
Yeah, I mean, fusion is only 10 years away, right?
Alexander with the jokes. Eli.
Yes.
We are 4 likes shy to 200, guys. You can do it.
Ellie, thank you very much. I appreciate all the support, all the call to actions. Yeah, that would be really helpful if a few people could please head over to the YouTube link and hit that like button. We've actually had really good participation today on YouTube, so I really appreciate all of. Any other questions, comments? Please request to speak. Ellie, can you give us an update from Middle East?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's the holiday season. Things are chaotic here. Short days, very busy. The north is just bombarded with missiles. Like everybody from the north are living in the center of Israel right now. Tesla store, for example, is closed in the north, and we have the team working with us in the center. So it's normal for us to hear that people got stabbed in the streets by random, individuals. I don't want to use, any words here. So things are chaotic. France wants to embargo Israel. Some countries are trying to avoid from selling weapon and give support to Israel. We are in a mess. This is why we need a strong leadership in the U.S. side. So I don't know which one it will be, but we need help. We need support. And I'm not trying to paint a picture that we are the victim. It's a war. It's a nasty business. But yeah, it's not really. It's a mess, yeah, man. But nothing. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Thanks, Ellie. Which candidate do the Israelis generally want to see in president?
From what we see, and keep in mind, we don't really educate ourselves that well. It seems that Trump will be a stronger president with strong views of what we need as a country, as a nation, and what the Middle East should look like. Granted, I'm not familiar with Kamala, and the way Camilla looks on screen on TV, she just look mad. I'm sorry, that's what people say. In the fun word, in the fun way of the word, not seriously. So we need Trump. We want Trump. This is our candidate.
Okay, thank you very much. Uzi, anything on your end? Anything you want to discuss? I saw you posted a reply about Google.
I did mention that. No, I think for the most part we're good. We can talk about Google and the regulators trying to break off Chrome and Android, but that's kind of out of the scope of the space.
I mean, it is kind of in scope because I think Tesla's going to run into those issues at some point in the next 5-10 years too. But that's even in Google's case, that's like a few years out, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It will be in the next administration, maybe the one after that, for all we know. But it's kind of bizarre because going back for our political conversation, JD Vance sort of celebrates Lena Khan, who's they're politically opposed to each other, but they do agree on some issues, and one of those is big tech becoming more of a surveillance mechanism that is, I guess, prejudicating the people. And there's political rhetoric centered around Google's role in that.
Thank you. Wave, go.
I wanted to make a comment on Uber, if that's okay still.
Yes, it is.
I think what inspired me to think about the delivery piece of Uber business is what the comment that Omar made, and I hadn't thought of that, where there is a significant portion of the growing population that will like to have some level of assistance, and they might order service with some help on either end of their drive. And every time I'm at Amazon Fresh, I see pretty, I would say, high-end cars and even Teslas have their trunk open and they're just loading one bag after another. And partnerships with Amazon Fresh or Uber Eats and all that can be a useful thing, not to have to start from scratch.
Thank you, Wave. Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question regarding the Cybertruck reservations. I've noticed some threads going around that some people were getting emails, which I just received, in fact, and my reservation number is down probably about 400,000. And I was pleasantly surprised to receive it, but then started questioning. And I've seen a couple YouTube videos that have addressed this. And I was wondering if anybody could shed light on it. So, for instance, my reservation I placed back in January of 2020. And like I said, it's about 400,000 down. I'm kind of curious as to why I would receive one now when we're a long ways from those production numbers. And people are stating that they've placed reservations this year and have also received an email. I did reach out to Sawyer on this just as a DM, and he said it wasn't true. But again, I'm just trying to see. I'm very excited. I can't wait to get mine, but I'm not quite ready to jump into it yet because I have a lease that I have to run out for another year. So any input would be really helpful. Thank you.
Well, I think you kind of answered your question right there at the last sentence, right? So a lot of people may not be ready, but there's also two facts we have to consider here. One of them is that fact that when Tesla first came out with the Cybertruck, they marketed as the entry price as $40,000. Today, it's going for $80,000, and even beyond that, $100,000. So Tesla's first going to go through those higher priced Cybertruck reservations, people who can't take deliveries today, and combined with the fact that interest rates are still high, I'm not that surprised, Robert.
Okay. All right. That's great. Thank you very much. So I'll be waiting, bated breath.
Okay, great. And when you get it, please come back and tell us how you like it. Finflexity, go.
There was some general AI news if you guys wanted to hear it.
Yes, please go ahead.
So just a few hours ago, NVIDIA released basically a modified version of the Llama 3.1 70 billion parameter model. And from the first few reviews I've seen, people are saying that it is beating Cloud 3.5 Sonnet as well as GPT-4o.
You know, Michelle posted a message about that in the AI Amateurs DM group. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I'll check it.
Okay, let me read what Michelle said. Now, obviously, Michelle uses these models hundreds of times an hour. So his view is very informed. He's a regular speaker in the AI amateur space on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And he says, trying out this right now is quite powerful so far, but not really better, like the poster is saying. It wins some and fails on other aspects. But it's interesting to see NVIDIA releasing models of their own. So it's something to watch, but it's too early to jump to conclusions. Uzi, what do you think about that?
I want to play around with it. I mean, I think NVIDIA is obviously the best with computing. I did see some posts saying, it doesn't know that there's, what is it, 2 R's in strawberry? It said 3. So yeah, it probably, they're at its infancy. It's somewhat similar to XAI's growth, I'm assuming. But for the most part, I have no experience with it firsthand.
Thank you. Finflex.
Yeah, from what I saw and a few prompts that I entered, it is doing better with basically following instructions and through instruction benchmarks. The reasoning is, up to everyone else to, basically review together.
Any other views on NVIDIA's large language model they just released that is rumored to be beating others? I would welcome that. Maybe we can. I'm going to look into this tonight and we can talk about it more in detail. Finflexity tomorrow. Does that sound? Okay, very good. Any other questions, comments? Please request to speak. Anything else on the speaker board? Please go ahead. In other news, global EV sales are growing, but it's led by China mostly. And China sales, especially Tesla's China sales, are low margin sales. So we might see some impact on that in Q3 results that are going to come out next week. In the coming days, we're going to focus more on Q3 earnings forecasts. I'm going to have one-on-one conversations published on the YouTube channel about this topic as well. This is a very important topic, obviously, for investors. So we're going to focus more on that going forward in the next few days leading up to the earnings release. And we're going to have a watch party for the earnings release on the YouTube channel as well, which you can access through the link at the top of your screens. Thanks for joining, everyone. If you enjoyed this discussion, take a second to jump over to the YouTube channel and hit like and subscribe. Your support drives Tesla Live's growth, helping us bring more insights and new topics like today's every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And I will see you all tomorrow.